Welcome to Horror Chisme with lasangronasyelcabron. This week we talk Pumpkinhead. For this podcast session, we decided to watch Pumpkinhead. It was released in 1988 by director Stan Winston. And it was a story written by Mark Patrick Carducci, the screenwriter, Stan Winston, and Richard C. Weinman. And it was actually inspired by the poem written by Ed Justin called Pumpkinhead. And so here are our reactions and our likes and dislikes about Pumpkinhead.
So I'll start off because this was the first time I watched the movie. I was like asking Louis a bunch of questions as we were watching it. I was like, what's going to happen? And wait, what's going on? Let me tell you, that biker dude, he is an asshole. He makes fun of the little boy's glasses. That was just like...
Joel the jerk.
Yes, he is such a jerk. He's an asshole. And then he runs over the little boy? No, he was drinking. And then he leaves the scene instead of like waiting for the dad to come back. Awful. Okay, so a story. So
the creature looks like an alien, does not look like a pumpkin. But I do like the story in the sense that it is a vengeance creature. So I think that's pretty cool. But I did not get the whole pumpkin. I mean, I know it's the witch's pumpkin patch.
No, vengeance.
But it's the witch's pumpkin patch, right?
Oh, you never see her go outside actually, so you don't know.
Older lady.
Oh, yes.
Excuse us.
Elderly lady's pumpkin patch. What did you like about the film, Susie?
Similarly, I like the concept of vengeance. I guess as a story as a whole, like I like the tender moments of like father and son, right? Like even when like he brings him home, like when the kid is dying and he brings him home and there's like that moment of just like sunlight coming into through the window, like these like grace moments. I really like appreciate that in contrast to the dad basically becoming a monster to avenge his son. So like I like that contrast. I didn't like that they just left the kid alone at the store with dirt bikes and strangers around. But yes. I know that that's like the story, you know, you wouldn't have the story without something like that, but it was very frustrating to watch, you know. But something I also wanted to know more about was Haggis. So like old woman by the swamp, like what's her backstory? Like I wanted to know more about her. But overall, I love the film. It's one of my favorite creature films.
I agree with you. That was pretty frustrating, the part where, you know, the dad leaves him. And it's like, why would you leave your kid there? Like, wouldn't you just, like, lock up the store and take your kid with you? You know? Especially with, you know, folks who are there and, you know, you don't know who they are, you know? Like, that's just me. I wouldn't leave my kid there in the store. Like, what's my kid gonna do? Like, is he going to, you know, how's he gonna protect the store, you know, like if anything were to happen, or like how is my kid gonna protect themselves, you know, from folks who like try to like jack them or something. So that part was frustrating.
Or we could have just took the dog. You could have took the dog home and that was it.
Technically it was the dog's fault as to why, you know, the kid runs out to get his dog.
See, we are quick to get vengeance. We just don't think whose fault is it really.
And something about it for me was just like, it was an accident, right? Nobody's at real fault, but then everybody has blood on their hands because everybody can be considered responsible. So even like the dad feeling really bad for what happened, right? Like blaming others, but like also maybe like blaming himself.
Well, okay, so I feel like it was an accident, but the one that is responsible is the dude that runs him over, right? Like, he's the ultimate one that...
But he wasn't entirely a bad guy.
Look, he made fun of the little boy's glasses.
So he deserves to die?
Well, no, but he's a jerk from the start. I didn't like his character, so like it didn't bother me his character, you know, dying.
I kind of did, you know, after the other guy was just like gotta get it together, man. You gotta get it together. And I was like, oh, now he's feeling remorse because his brother died. So they were fair right there already. He killed his brother. Son died. His brother died. It was already fair. And then, no, they still had to push more vengeance. And I also think that the girl who got her face smashed through the window was a little too much.
Wasn't she the one that was trying to like stop the little boy?
Little boy, little boy.
No, she had her psychic visions. That's why she knew. But the way she went out, I was like, whoa, he's even smiling. Like, it's over the top vengeance. But again, 100% organic vengeance.
Oh yes, that's what I like. Louis coming up with the 100% organic vengeance. Definitely.
Yes, I put it in the sketchbook. 100% organic vengeance.
The part that I had to ask Louis was the part where the elderly lady is burying the pumpkin after the dad killed himself. And I was like, wait, so does that mean that
was her baby?
When she's burying Pumpkinhead, he has the necklace that the dad has. So does that mean that she's burying the dad too? Or it takes form of the dad?
Well, it probably took his soul with him because remember, he's losing everything with his vengeance.
It was a powerful price.
Mm-hmm. And you know what? When you're dealing with, excuse my language, witches, you're usually dealing with hell. Kind of signing, your soul over. I don't know if you heard this when he says, God damn you. And she's like, God already damned me.
Yeah.
So we're going in the direction, no, you're going to hell.
And it's kind of like vengeance being like something that you felt was needed, but when you take matters into your own hands, you become a monster, right? Like you become
an organic monster.
Yeah. You become a monster, an organic monster. And because there's that point where he's just like, he can't take this anymore, right? Like he thought that he wasn't going to see it, right? Or feel it, that it was just going to happen. And like he goes to the lady and she's just like, what, did you think it was going to be easy? That it was going to be clean? That it was going to be painless? And he finds out that vengeance is very painful.
It is.
You're still left hollow. You're still left,
empty.
And I think she put a little bit of his son in Pumpkinhead. Cuts the boy's hand. So that's why Pumpkinhead smiling when he's pushing the girl's head through the window.
It allowed like Ed Harley to sync up with the creature, but at the same time, like take vengeance for his son, right? And it seems kind of like you said, Louis, that you would think that it would stop with Joel the jerk, but it keeps going. It's not so much what really transpired or happened, but like what Ed Harley, like the dad, had in his heart, or like perception of who's to blame. It was just the city folks in their motorbikes.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Now I wonder if it was through his eyes also because he saw everybody there. Mm-hmm. Now if there was somebody else in the car that didn't get out, he's probably snapping in the back. Yeah. I wonder if he would have died.
I kind of feel though that the dad, like witnessing the first killing, he was already starting to feel remorse. The way that it's portrayed, but Pumpkinhead just keeps going and going and going. And then it's not until like towards, I don't know which character, I don't remember, but it's when he starts, like this can't go any further, like longer, and so that's when he takes action to like try to kill Pumpkinhead.
Yeah, he goes after Maggie dies, he goes to the older woman and she's like, it has to run its course. And then he shows up. And I guess like it took the other lady too, the other young woman, I forgot her name. Mm-hmm. She dies too. And then like Ed Harley shows up and shoots Pumpkinhead. It's just the last three, Joel, Tracy, and what's his name, Chris?
See, the type of vengeance though is like he drops her off from high above a tree onto her back.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Like the little boy got ran over by a motorcycle. No one took him on top of a tree and let him fall.
That's true.
Already, like you see like class differences, right? Like this kind of like rural America, right? Meets like city folk. There's already like a class dynamics. And there's a moment where like the brother, right? The first one that dies, he's just like, can I help? And then Ed Harley just like gives them like the evil eye, like this glare. Also, like throughout, like the people that they run into in the town call them like, you've been marked, right? And it reminded me of Paranormal Activity, right? The marked ones. It's like brujeria. Someone put a brujeria on you, but it was just like the power of the evil eye. And like, por eso, like, I still wear mi ojo de venado, right? Because there is this, maybe it won't show up as a creature like Pumpkinhead, but like, that's real.
Brujeria de la vida.
Yeah.
Pretty much. I mean, vengeance.
Okay, so out of the characters though, like I find the brother and I guess his partner who runs after the little boy to tell them like, no, little boy. like the one characters that do care about like the situation, like the accident.
Joel's brother did.
They're the first ones to die.
Yeah.
Joel's brother.
Which is different from like
Yeah, that's why he's the one that stays there,
I would have just asked them straight up, did you summon this demon towards us? Right? And then I would have killed them right there. It would have been over.
But overall, I did enjoy the movie. I mean, there were parts where I did want to like fall asleep.
Yes, and she also thought that he created the clothing brand.
No, I didn't.
What?
She thought that he was like named after the brand.
Oh.
I did not. I also would have wanted like some backstory on the witch.
All we know of her is her name. We know that she lives in a swamp. She tells Ed Harley to enact his vengeance, go to this cemetery, right? Which I think was really interesting. Like she described it as like somewhere where like mountain folks like before used to like bury their kin who they were ashamed of. Without really saying too much, that already kind of gives you an idea of who's buried there, right? And so it's kind of interesting to know like this is like a cemetery of shame, Razorback Hollow.
I do believe she's a good woman though, because she felt his pain. But she warned him. She told him from the beginning, you don't want this. Just letting you know. If I have to do it, I will.
It comes with the price of like losing of his humanity, right? Or like you said, his soul.
Like I wish there was more people like her. You could use that for anything. The election day. If votes don't go our way, I'm gonna go to her and be like, I want this type of vengeance. And then part 5 would be like in the city. Pumpkinhead in the city, and he'll get the president and everybody who's in the way. Basically, the whole White House.
Wait, is there a Pumpkinhead part 2?
Pumpkinhead, 5 parts, I believe. 5 or 4? Not sure.
There's Blood Wings or something like that, right?
Part 2.
And then Ashes to Ashes. And then there's another one.
Dust to Dust. Just kidding. That was a joke. It was a joke.
Ed Justin's poem, which the story was inspired by. Like it's the folklore or like the song that the kids are singing at the store. Like that's the poem. It's longer, but that's his poem. And that's what like the creators of this movie like inspiration from. The movie was actually released October 14th in 1988. So I'm guessing like for Halloween, right? Which makes sense, like the pumpkins.
Yeah.
When I was watching the film, I didn't pay much attention to the kids singing the song. I just, like when I watched it, I was just like, oh, okay, like, they're singing or they're saying this, right? But it's because of this legend about Pumpkinhead, right? And that scene is a little bit after the beginning where you see the guy like running and then the other guy and his family he's like locking up the house. So folks already know about this, right? About this vengeance. Would it be creature or demon?
Well, I mean, he does look like a demon also. But you could imagine if you were to take out Pumpkin and put Watermelon Head or not as attractive as Pumpkin.
Well, anyways, okay, go back to the poem.
Okay, so the poem goes, keep away from Pumpkinhead unless you're tired of living. His enemies are mostly dead. He's mean and unforgiving. Laugh at him and you're undone, but in some dreadful fashion. Vengeance he considers fun and plans it with a passion. Time will not erase or blot a plot that he has brewing. It's when you think that he's forgot, he'll conjure your undoing. Bolted doors and windows barred, guarded dogs prowling in the yard, won't protect you in your bed, nothing will from Pumpkinhead.
Unless you kill the person who summoned him. That's deep.
The way that I kind of interpret it alongside the film, it's just like Pumpkinhead is like everyone's like darker half, right? It can be anyone's darker half. Like what you won't do yourself.
Pumpkinhead will.
Yeah, you sync up your heart to this creature and they'll do it for you, but you still feel it, right?
Angie's dark half is Pee Wee Herman.
Why?
But overall, good movie.
Two of our other questions were, would you rewatch this? And do we want a reboot or a remake?
That's a good question.
I guess it's going to have to be carefully remade if it is, because with technology now, with all the CGI, and they'll probably show more of him. And the whole point to Pumpkinhead is not to really see him, but when you finally do, you're dead. And if they're going to show him throughout, might as well make him aliens. If you remake the movie.
I think it's totally remakeable, but like Louis said, I don't know, like there's movies that just tend to use like CGI a lot, and I don't think like, CGI would be the best.
It's funny because, the Bond of something, but he still has nipples.
Yeah, he's still somewhat a man, right? Like he's still human in a way, but a darker half.
He's a fetus, and then he grows with blood.
I thought that part was really cool. Like I think like the fact that it's a fetus, right? Or like when it dies, right? It's like going to be reborn again. And then that's where I connect Louis' 100% organic vengeance. Also the fact that, she's burying him, right? And just coming out again and again, I guess whoever seeks that vengeance, right? And so that's 100% pure vengeance. I think it's doable to be remade. However, folks who take on that have to be very careful on how they remake it.
I prefer a remake than adding on to the story. Because, I like part 2, but then after that, it's just like...
Does part 2 give us like more information about Haggis?
A little bit.
Or instead of doing a remake, maybe it would be like the story on Haggis and how Pumpkinhead, like the origins of Pumpkinhead. There you go.
When he used to be a guy.
And how he became the vengeance. I want to say demon, but I guess creature.
Spawn of a witch. Who comes from hell?
I would watch it again.
A witch's spawn that comes from hell.
How about you, Susie?
I love this film. This was the third time I watched it this week. I like to rewatch this film. I haven't seen all of their sequels. I have seen the second one, I believe, where it's the story, I think, of Pumpkinhead and like him falling into a well. Tried to kind of create like an origin story around him, but like it's a little cheesy. But similar to Louis, I would appreciate like a remake, but like not like another sequel kind of thing. To echo the CGI stuff, like it feels like it's just like, well, no shit. I think like the beauty of like Pumpkinhead, the original, it's like that this creature was created. Someone was in that bodysuit on stilts,
and CGI is just not going to do it.
And part of why you don't see him very much in the movie is because it's, this is an art piece that was created. And so like, there may be some flaws to it. So you don't see him much, right? And like they're like more in the shadows. So you can't tell that there's somebody behind them. But I think like that's also like giving what Angie was noting in our last session about like the fear of the unknown, right? Like if we give too much away about like this creature, not everybody gets to see him when they die,
That is true.
That is true. That's the point, you die scared. You don't know what killed you.
And so as viewers, we see parts of him, but like it's still like not knowing if he's a demon or an alien, like it's kind of like the beauty of it.
I mean, the fact that right now demon, we don't. Though. I mean, right now the fact that we're like questioning, like, okay, is he a demon? Is he a creature? I mean, we know that he's not a pumpkin.
There's a moment where like Lance Henriksen, like Ed Harley's character, looks at him towards the end and he's becoming him, right? He's starting to have his features and like Ed Harley's eyes like turn into like pumpkin heads. Yeah. It's like him, right?
I like that part.
I'm kind of like curious, like what would happen if Ed Harley's character didn't stop him, right? Like, would he completely transform into him, take over?
Or there would have been two.
Yeah, I wonder.
Two babies put back in the grave. Double the vengeance.
I wonder what happens to the dog.
He probably went with Bunt.
If I were Pumpkinhead, I would have ripped him to pieces.
Well, it's your fault because the little boy went after you.
What did you guys think about Bunt, the kid?
He was the helper.
The one that wait, who? What character was that one?
The one that was helping, no?
He took the dad to Haggis or showed him the way.
But then he helped the other characters like defeat Pumpkinhead.
Yeah.
He was gonna die too. You saw that? He had him, and then the dog bit him.
I don't know. I was kind of confused about that because he knows about the story, right? And so he knows
the myth about him.
He has an understanding like that's
It's revenge.
Yeah. But then afterwards, how does he help the other characters out? Like, how does he know that they're, I guess, hunted from Pumpkinhead?
Tracy and Chris, like two of the characters, like go to the house and they're like knocking on the door, like, please somebody help us. And like he's there with his family, like they're all up, but he sneaks out because like he has like this curiosity to see if Pumpkinhead's real. Like they've been telling these stories and like this myth about Pumpkinhead, and he's kind of curious to see if it's real. So like one of the first things that he says to like Tracy and Chris when he meets up with them, what does he look like? I kind of saw him as like, he helps set up the story. There's like the bridge moment, like a song, right? Like there's a bridge in the story when he takes him to like the burnt congregation, like the church. I feel like he recaps to us like what's going on. He tells like the characters like what's going on, like who's after him. You probably wronged someone and they sent something to kill you because it's that bad that you probably did something really bad. And he provides all these details of the folklore. So it's like a necessary character, right? Like who's going to tell these kids that they're being like hunted down by this like creature of vengeance? And I think like the purpose of Bunt is to provide that storyline.
Overall, awesome movie. It's not as cheesy as you think it is.
It's actually a pretty good story. Like, okay, like when I first started watching, like I was like, all right, let's do this. Let's watch it. And so then afterward, like just like the very beginning of it, like I did get into, yes, I did. Well, okay, so in the
she was getting watery eyes already.
I think that was just because of the time, like I was already tired. But anyways, like the first part, right, where in the very beginning, like the first scene where the dad is like locking up everything, I was like asking, like, why is he locking it up? Like, is Pumpkinhead gonna go get him? And he's like, no, just watch it. So then when the guy comes to, I guess, I don't know if it's his friend. Is it his friend?
Mr. Wallace?
Mr. Rogers.
I guess the guy who's gonna get killed by Pumpkinhead in the very beginning, like in the first scene of the movie when it starts off. But I was just like, I wouldn't, let him in either. I'm like, no way. Pumpkinhead's after you, bro. Like, not me.
You know what though? I'm surprised nobody runs to the old lady's house. I would ask her for help.
Mm-hmm.
I'll be like, can I send Pumpkinhead after him because you send Pumpkinhead after me? Like after he kills me, can you make sure that he comes back to kill him?
Can I like go escarbar someone else? Like, is there another Pumpkinhead?
Yeah.
And then there's just like a Pumpkinhead war.
It's
like,
gonna be
different creatures.
Watermelon Head. That's the next patch over. You can always watch it third, fourth, fifth time.
I would watch it again.
I would always watch it.
I would watch it again for like details because, usually the first time is just to get like a sense of it. I think this time around I will pay attention to the details.
I really like this movie. I would rewatch it. Yes. One of the things that I found so poetic is just like, I guess like Ed Harley goes back to like this graveyard, right? Like if he replaces Pumpkinhead in a way, like part of him does. It's like he becomes a monster that's now buried in a graveyard of shame. Like I thought that was just so poetic how like just he wanted vengeance and he got it, but it was just like incredibly painful and it robbed him of his humanity that he is now lying in a graveyard of shame. He killed these kids with his, anger too, right? Mm-hmm. the evil eye, the power of the evil eye. You know, like you got to be weary of what you throw out there.
You know, the only problem with this movie is it's not long enough. It falls in my top 10 list.
Of horror
Top
movies?
10, yes.
Of horror movies? How about you, Susie?
This is one of my favorite like horror films. I don't often watch a lot of like creature or monster films, but like this is one of the ones that I really like. I tend to go more for like ghost stories and the devil.
Interesting.
So, the snack recommendation to watch Pumpkinhead is, of course, pumpkin seeds, lightly salted, and some candy corn, because, you know, candy corn. Candy corn's delicious. Louis says no, but you gotta love some candy corn. And to drink, of course, some water, some H2O. That is the snack to watch this movie with. Okay, so next week, we gotta talk about the Blair Witch.
It makes more sense now that we've watched it.
Yeah, we rewatched it, so we're gonna definitely have to do a segment on the Blair Witch
Next week.
Yeah.